Nobody knows where the fog came from. Some say it's punishment for our sins and secrets. All I know is that the sun shines over the horizon, and I'm going to take us there.
Hello, friends. SentinalhMC here, and welcome back to Lifting the Fog. In this episode, we're going to discuss fear attacks. This is an extremely important aspect of the game you'll be dealing with every day. So let's get into it, shall we? Mostly, you'll be taking care of the planning against fear attacks during the orders phase, which is when you'll build defenses to protect your carriages against the fog. We'll now be opening our notebook under the carriage console. The tutorial goes into a good amount of detail as to how attacks work, but I'm hoping that I'll be able to demystify some of the more confusing aspects in this episode. Every guard phase, there is a chance that the fog will attack your train. This is determined by the fog density that's currently around your train. You can check the fog density at the front of your carriage by the fog gauge. When the flashing red light is on, the fog is quite dense, and you're likely to have a fear attack. Fear attacks prey on the fears of your passengers. By clicking on the Dream Logs tab, you can check and see the 5 most recent dreams that have taken place in that carriage. This will inform which fear attack is most likely to hit this carriage. As we can see from our defense analysis of this carriage, everyone is dreaming about the Mei Ying, which is probably some sort of Asian demon. I'm not exactly familiar with it. It's important to note that when the fear is chosen that will attack your train, it is chosen based on which fear has been most common throughout the entire train. You can check this by looking at the small dash on these graphs. We can't see it on this one because it's covered by the bar, but generally speaking, the higher the average mention is, the more likely that fear is to attack the train. As we can see, the fear of the Mei Ying is the most common on the train right now, which makes it the most likely to attack. As we can see on this particular carriage, only the Mei Ying are being dreamt about. This is an extremely strong indicator that we would want to build defenses against the Mei Ying. These cards on the left side will give you ideas into what the people are dreaming about, but it's really the defense analysis that will be giving you the data that you'll be using. You'll also find here the average defense estimate. This is determined by how many defenses you've actually constructed. And while one of the defenses might say it has 100% effectiveness, this will not translate into a 100% defense estimate. Roughly speaking, you're going to need more defense the more people are on the carriage. This percentage used to be higher in this particular game, even though I haven't built any additional defenses, because there are now more people on the train than there were before. Because only carriages that have dreamt about a particular fear will be attacked by that fear if that fear attacks the train, it is an extremely good idea to group people together in carriages based on their shared fears. For example, I have purposefully relocated everybody who has been dreaming about the Mei Ying or demons to this first train, to put them together. That way I can specialize my defense against the attacks and build strong demon defense on this carriage. You will not have enough resources in the game to defend every carriage against every fear. You have to group these fears together so that you can build your defenses efficiently. If we look at our second carriage and check its dream logs, we can see that the people on this carriage have been dreaming heavily about wasps. If the train is attacked by the Mei Ying, this carriage will not be affected because nobody on this carriage is dreaming about the Mei Ying. It's this aspect that is extremely important to understand. So while we may wish to defend this train against wasps by building wasp defenses, we don't have any reason to build defenses against the Mei Ying or demons. If we go to the build defenses order, we'll now explain in more depth how this works. We briefly covered this in our episode about orders. At the top of the page, you'll find which carriage you're currently selecting, as well as the available resources. In order to build a defense, that resource must be present on that carriage. You'll want to use the move and dump cargo order to move the resources to the carriage you wish to build the defenses in. You'll find a list of all of the targets that are currently available. At the beginning of a new game, the game will randomly generate the 4 fears that you'll be dealing with during this playthrough. Some defenses are effective against multiple fears, while others are effective only against one fear. There are 5 different resources you can use to build defenses. Scrap, which is the most plentiful, but which builds the weakest defenses. Materials, which are less common than scrap, and build moderately strong defenses with no downsides. Machine parts, which construct good defenses, but increase the fuel consumption of your train. Electronics, which also constructs good defenses, but requires power. And chemicals, which constructs good defenses, but can cause damage to the train. These are things such as blood water, incense, reflective surfaces, and pesticide bombs. This can also include things like incendiary devices. Well, you can see why it might cause damage to the train. While the electronics resource builds things such as ancient recordings, heavenly lights, inverse polarizers, and zappers. Having one of these electronics defenses on a carriage will require you to divert more of the train's battery power to that carriage. Machine parts will build things like totems, altars, refractive rotators, and swatting traps, while materials will build protective suits, radiation shielding, lanterns, and wings. These are all really just bits of flavor text. If I go back to my first carriage, we can see the defenses that I've currently constructed. I built these during the tutorial when I didn't have a very good understanding of how this system works. I built one of each. We currently have a reinforced screen, which is built out of scrap and provides a 50% bonus to wasp defense. A mirror, which has a 50% bonus against the rewind defense. A banishment ritual, which has the 50% bonus versus the demons and the Mei Ying, and a second banishment ritual. As we can see, all of these 50% added together only equates to a 14% defense estimate. This is because we need far more defense percentage for each of our passengers. Once you have selected which defenses you wish to construct by issuing a build defense order, it may take several days for the defenses to actually be constructed. So you'll want to act quickly in building up your defenses, and not give that carriage too many orders in the interim, so that they'll be able to devote most of their time to constructing the defense. When an attack actually occurs while sleeping, and I can't cause one to happen on command, but I will edit one into this video, you'll receive a view of the train from various angles, such as this one that I'm currently looking at. The screen will be washed out, and you'll be able to tell immediately which fear is attacking. If you see wasps on the windows, you'll know that it's wasps attacking your train. A graphical pulse will emanate from the back of the train to the front of the train. This pulse will let you know how damaging the attack was. As soon as the attack is over, you'll receive notifications through your pneumatic tube system here. This will let you know which carriages were affected and what happened. There'll be some flavor text, and you'll be told who received injuries, if any, whether or not medical treatment was successfully performed, and whether or not a medical resource was consumed in the process. Depending on how many times you have upgraded your medical facilities, and based on the medical skill of the people in that carriage, an actual medical supply may not actually be consumed, or medical treatment may not have been able to be properly applied. Injuries will lower the stats of your passengers. I don't believe I currently have anyone on the train that has an injury. We'll just check here a moment. Nope, no one is injured. However, if these people were injured, you would notice red lines on their skills, lowering them based on the severity of their injury. It's important to keep your people healthy, as injury levels are also an extremely important aspect as to whether or not that carriage likes you. High injury levels may result in a revolt. I hope this has answered your questions regarding fear attacks and how to defend against them. How to use the dream log to prepare your defenses, and the importance of grouping people with similar fears in the same carriage. I hope you've enjoyed this episode of Lifting the Fog. Stay tuned for future episodes when we'll be demystifying other aspects of this very intriguing game. I'm Sentinel H, and I'm signing out.